The illegal migration bill, meanwhile, that looks to have come to a dramatic end in Parliament. The legislation is now ready to be passed into law after the Archbishop of Canterbury withdrew his objections.
Yes, the government's seeing off a series of challenges indeed by peers at Westminster into late last night. The bill now expected, of course, to receive royal assent. Let's get more with our deputy political editor, Tom Harwood. And Tom, this was dramatic until the very end, as befits this particular bill.
It certainly was. It was getting towards the early hours of the morning when the Lords finally withdrew their opposition to this bill. Of course, we'd seen several rounds of what's known as parliamentary ping-pong, where the bill goes from the Commons to the Lords, the Commons to the Lords. Of course, it has to pass both houses in order to then receive royal assent and become an Act of Parliament. But what we saw last night was the individuals in the Lords who had been putting up sustained opposition time and time again, passing lots of different amendments, some of which last week were accepted by the House of Commons. 5 of an original 20 set of amendments were accepted in part or in whole by the government, and the government really hoped that that sort of as a last offer to the Lords would be that line in the sand to allow this bill to finally pass through. It took one more round of ping pong after that in the end for the Lords to then sort of say that actually they are going to accede to the elected House. That's the argument that at the end of the day usually wins these back and forths with ping pong. Even though the Lords could have delayed it for longer, ultimately they know that they are the unelected House, that the government is the elected House, and that's very much the argument that Archbishop Welby made last night, that even though he did not believe in the bill, did not want the bill to have come about in the way that it did, would prefer a sort of more consensus-based starting point, were his words. Even despite that, opposition was dropped after several rounds of ping-pong.
But, Tom, there are a number of charities and campaign groups absolutely slamming this bill today, saying that it's unworkable and it is cruel.
There are, and this has been the criticism of critics of the bill for some time. They poke a jab at the name of the bill written as it was by the clerks of the House, the illegal migration bill. Well, they say that's a very apt description because they claim that it is against the United Kingdom's international obligations to provide safe refuge to those who claim asylum here. The big set-piece element of the bill is that if you arrive in the country illegally, you can be removed without very, very good excuse. It almost flips the sort of incentives that currently are placed on migration enforcement agents. And so this 28-day detention as standard, and additionally the limited right of appeal to decisions to get people who have arrived illegally out of the country. These are 2 big things that the government believes will act as a huge deterrent for those coming across in small boats, but critics say break international obligations that the United Kingdom signed up to in the wake of the Second World War.